Off the mic segment today, Teddy, just when you thought the Super Bowl was over and you can rest and you could put all those catalogs away of statistics and say, see you next summer, a new football scope comes into focus over the weekend, and that was the Alliance of American Football. A couple games this weekend. Might have caught you by surprise. Like, wait a second, what's football? Is this Arena League? Is this World League football? Is this XFL football? Looks like trying to be a little bit more mainstream, as you saw in the telecast. Teddy, Bill Polian was on there. Some interesting stuff here before we get into the betting aspect of it, which I thought were good. No extra points in the game. Each team must go for 2, but the one I actually really liked, Teddy, was no onside kick, and instead you get a 4th and 12 to try to convert that and keep the football. If you saw the changes made in the NFL over the past year, it's harder and harder to get an onside kick. What did they get? Maybe 3 or 4% of the total onside kicks actually got converted the opposite direction. This changed it up a little bit. I like that this is a testing ground here, but now it's going to be another testing ground out in Las Vegas to see if we can get the betting handle up and who's going to bet on this stuff, Teddy.
Yeah, sure. And look, the rules are interesting. They're gimmicky. Fine. I'm fine with that. I watched over the weekend. Did it hold my attention for the entire game? It did not. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have a bunch of offensive lines that don't know what they're doing yet. Good reports on the betting handle or the interest on the AAF from a couple of articles that I read and a couple of people that I talked to. They were saying, like Westgate was talking at Superbook. They said the handle for the AAF was comparable to an average NCAA basketball game, which means they're decent. At South Point, Chris Andrews said the AAF betting, quote, exceeded his expectations. That being said, at the Caesars books, they were saying that they had the 5 times more handle on the Pro Bowl than they did on the AAF game. Certainly the action from a betting standpoint, fairly limited, but very, very early in the process. And if the product is good, people will bet, people will handicap, no question about it. I give them kudos for getting guys out there, for getting a league off the ground, not easy to do. I give them kudos for having at least a competent level of play over the weekend. And hopefully we'll see some of these offensive lines come together. We can see some sustained drives, and we can figure out which QBs can make plays and which QBs can't, because much like the Arena Football League, you're betting secondary football leagues, find a quarterback and an offensive line that you want your money on and bet them again and again and again. That's my first gut when it comes to betting the AAF.
Teddy, by the way, in this league, they had some decent ratings on Saturday night from what we were seeing. Obviously, if we compare it over to the XFL, which had the backing of Vince McMahon and the WWE, they had really high ratings, but almost all like, a bad stock or a bad day on the stock market as that line continually moved lower. I think this league does have a chance to succeed. It's not all pomp and circumstance, but maybe if they can show you good football, because as I said, you're the same way I am. If I'm going to watch a game, I do want to be entertained, especially, look, we can all watch bad NFL games because you have money on it, but it's one thing if you don't have money on it and watch a bad lower level football game. Do you think this league can sustain if it plays decent football and just maybe wedge itself in there in the spring?
The no has to be the favorite.
Yeah.
But it all depends on expectations. Arena football was around for 30 years, expectations were low. At times they got higher. When they got higher, well, they got lowered. They got lowered again fairly quickly. So the XFL had enough to come back for a second season, but it didn't meet these enormous rating expectations. Remember, the crowds were full. People were into that league. I loved that league for a little while. But it all just comes down to managing expectations. The NFL didn't start where it is today. It takes time. And this is the type of thing that will take time. I was excited about the crowd support for the home teams. The stadiums had fans and excited fans, fans dressing up for the first game. Good for them. There's hope. It's still not chalk to survive.